Hey, everybody, and welcome to our next panel discussion on driving product security excellence through security culture, transparency, and customer centricity. I'm Amir, and I'll be your host for this session. We have the privilege of hearing from two exceptional leaders who are at the forefront of shaping product security practices. So, Nikola Dalcekovic, Product Security Officer at Schneider Electric, and Brian Levine, Director of Product Security at Elastic. Nikola and Brian, thank you for both being here. Before we start the discussion, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Nikola, maybe you can start with us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikola Dalcekovic, and I'm a product security officer, as Amir already mentioned, at Schneider Electric. And I'm accountable for multiple R&D sites dispersed across the globe. We have sites in Europe and North America. And uh, I'm accountable for product security, meaning that we have ownership of the security development lifecycle. We have security operations, also penetration testing teams. And a little bit about myself is that I'm a CSSLP certified, CISSP, and in the meantime, I have defended a PhD thesis in multi-tenancy of cloud-based systems. So that's
Awesome.
shortly about me, and let's hear from Ryan.
Great to have you here, Nikola. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Amir. Yeah, thanks, Amir. So Director of Product Security as well. I'm responsible for secure software development across all products and cloud services that we build. Just a little bit of my background. I've worn a lot of hats in the industry. Started my education as a classical security engineer. Was really drawn into security from a confidentiality standpoint while working in the aerospace and defense industry. And then kind of how I landed in product security engineering was while I was interviewing for a SaaS. They were looking for a product security management role, and I asked during the interview process if I could speak to their CISO and their head of security architecture. And they said, well, we don't have one of those, so maybe you can do that role too. And so from there, I built out a security engineering team from scratch, covering development, testing, compliance, cloud operations, red team. And it's just been sort of rinse and repeat since then, just really continuing to evolve and learn as I go and really enjoy this space.
Amazing. Thanks, Brian. Wonderful to have both of you on with us. It's kind of like let's kick it off here. So, setting the foundations of kind of the discussion that we want to have today. There's a lot of definitions around just product security in general. How product security intersects or even differs from application security. So, as two leaders driving excellence in product security, how would you define product security, or what is product security to you guys? Brian, why don't we start with you first?
Sure. I'll start with a short answer and then maybe unpack it a little. I would say top level product security is the process of delivering business value in a trustworthy environment. Uh, and so really everything, what I mean by that is everything is dynamic. Everything is constantly moving in modern cloud-based applications. There's really no such thing as a final product. Everything is always in flux. It's a dynamic swarm of conditions that just come together in just the right way to deliver something of value in the end user experience. For the end user, it looks like a finished product and a finished environment, but in reality, everything about the application and environment is constantly changing. You've got hosts and containers going up and down, load balancers shifting workloads, services coming offline, new IP addresses being cycled in, new threats, spikes in traffic, code updates, hot fixes, you name it. Everything is constantly changing. There's really no finished product, no finished release. And so how do we ensure trust in that realm? That's what product security is to me.
Gotcha. Thanks, Brian. Nicola, over to you.
So I do share similar views here, and because I'm also a software engineer by the background, And AppSec for me always was more in the narrow sense what we can find in the SDL, right? In secure development lifecycle, all those practices like threat modeling, secure code implementation, DAST, EST, SAST. So in the narrow sense, how do we apply those practices would fall for me under the AppSec. While for the product security, I turn always to the risk-based approach. So in a company, we have a risk register, right? And then there are some risks related to the customers or to the products that we develop and deliver or continuously operate in a cloud-based environments. So for me, product security was always that mandate where we need to ensure that those risks don't materialize, which is more than just the AppSec, right? The AppSec is just one piece to the puzzle where we ensure the practices are being there and being followed. But generally, product security for me is how do we tackle those risks? And it pretty much connects to what Brian was explaining. Like, for example, we have some cloud native offers. So security operations would be under the product security in my mind, as there is the risk for the end customers in this case, or however we put the risk framework around. So it's more broad and more mandate driven when I think about product security in general.
Gotcha. No, that's a great explanation from both of you. Thank you for that. Thanks for setting the foundation. So there are really three components we wanted to dig into as well in today's discussion. One, security culture, two, transparency, and three, customer centricity, all related to, driving better product security outcomes here. So let's start with security culture. How can a strong security culture help embed security earlier on in the development cycles from your perspective? Maybe Nikola, back to you to start off.
Oh, that's a tough one to speak to, but generally I see the role of a security culture there to break the silo between the security and the R&D teams, and how it can do that actually by setting the shared goal between the groups about creating a secure and resilient software. So in my mind, if we have that shared goal, if we break the silos, and we can continuously work together as two groups with two different perspectives, that's where the culture comes into play. And when people understand the why, that is a sign of the healthy culture. So why behind the product security, then it means that the tooling also can follow, right? Because now we have interested parties trying to address the common problem. How do we make products secure? So the strong and healthy security culture, I think, drives also a better tool adoption. And for me, that's how the whole security culture plays a vital role in shifting left, essentially making it part of the natural flow of a developer.
Yep, absolutely. Brian, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just piggybacking on some of those points, I think understanding the why that Nikola mentioned, I think we'll probably touch on that a lot here today. The why is critical. Security is never something we want to hide behind and just say we're doing this because some compliance or some boss said that we have to do it. Explaining why this is important and what's the impact if we don't do this is really a baseline in terms of getting engineering or getting other stakeholders and the enterprise rallied around your mission and your objective. And so security culture, I believe, is critical. It's really the starting point for the foundation of success in any program. Really, security teams cannot be in every room. We cannot be in every design discussion, in every bug review, in every impact analysis. So having that strong security culture means that people will recognize a security risk when they see it, and they'll also feel comfortable about bringing it to the security team because they know they're not going to be blamed for causing an issue or causing an outage. They have a good interaction. They're left with a positive feeling, knowing that even if they do make a mistake, they can bring it to the security team and we'll work together in finding a solution, versus a culture where it's a blame-based environment or compliance-driven environment where people are afraid or maybe hesitant to bring those concerns forward.
Yep, absolutely. Sounds like if you look at it across people, process, and technology, the people process piece, culture is so important to this, right? If you stick the technology to the side, one of the things that we like to think about here is AppSec or even product security as more of a team sport, right? So making sure that, security teams have the visibility that they need, developers have the ability to have the context to be able to see like, okay, these are the things that security wants us to kind of fix, but this is why, and this is how I should fix it. And when you have kind of those two things together, then you have a better, more symbiotic relationship between the two teams. That's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah, so people process, but what about the tool? So should security tools be doing more to empower developers to foster embedded security in their workflow? Like, what do you think about from a tools perspective? Brian, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and maybe I'll take a contrarian answer here a little bit. In that, I don't, I don't feel strongly that more tools in the IDE or as developers writing code is going to move the needle greatly in producing better security outcomes. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think it will hurt to have, say, more security notifications in an IDE. However, in a distributed environment where we've got, engineers contributing code using whatever IDE, whatever composition environment they choose, across cultures, across languages, across platforms, and even enterprises where you have maybe open source contributions living side by side with customer contributions and in-house contributions. So you can't really ever rely on a common platform or a common tool to inform the engineer as they're checking in code. So really it's when things come together in that complex operating environment where you've got, thousands of services and components stitched together now and then executing in a dynamic environment. And that's when the real scary security issues can happen, So it's really, how do we do more dynamic testing in an integrated environment? How do we stress test that environment and really test things out after the code is written and compiled, and now it's all come together in that integrated environment? So really more dynamic testing. So looking at, from a tools standpoint, really looking at how do we implement tools in those stages of the development lifecycle. So, deploying a build into a stage environment and testing it there as it has come together, opening it up to public bug bounty and other test frameworks, manual testing, dynamic testing in that runtime environment is really where we surface the critical high severity security issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Nikola, would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, from my perspective, I always think about who would be the buying persona of any tool out there. And from that perspective, if the tool is expected to take outputs of a software engineer, I think it's vital and important that whoever creates the tool makes an effort to make it a part of the natural flow. Because I think the most pushbacks we have from software engineers is like, hey, I need now to go to this other tool to do something about it. So it breaks their natural flow, their day-to-day work. And that's where the resistance and friction starts showing up. So I think if a security tooling in place is about to touch developers in any way, it has to make an effort to make sure that it's part of their natural day-to-day workflow. So that's how if we are very successful there, I think sometimes software engineers even do security work without realizing it. So we come through to that through discussions, and when they feel it like a natural part of their workflow, I think that's the best. And sometimes they're even like, what is security talking about? We already do that, and we're just so happy to hear it. So that's because there are tooling that cover other aspects of the SDLC and operations where it might not be so necessarily important that it's part of the workflows for software engineers, but for these tools that matters, yes, I think it's vital that the tool is there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. Especially when you're trying to get developer adoption, make sure that you're staying within their workflows and not breaking away from them, right? Coming back, stepping away from the tools, coming back to a little bit more around culture and process shifts from your experiences. How have you helped them with these process shifts in kind of building that security mindset early on in development, like throughout your experience? What's kind of your thoughts on that?
So I think Brian touched a little bit on it when he mentioned compliance-driven security. I think that can be like the really, let's say, enemy of a security culture, and making sure that developers adopt it early on. So I would say, in a way, don't let compliance drive your security and risk management in your products, because if we are getting too much focused on compliance level security, and that also goes with a mindset of security being the gatekeepers, you're probably gonna end up in a stage where there is a friction of some sorts between the teams and silos created and so on. So I think when we are speaking about the processes and shifts needed to make those better adoptions and to flow product security more smoothly, I think it's very important to make a distinction between what's needed for compliance, and then to start surveying or speaking with the R&D about what their pain points are, and focus actually on making their lives easier and making them understand why we are doing some of the things. It's a vital to success in any product security program, in my opinion, and then see what we need to do from the compliance perspective to make sure we are ticking those boxes, and making sure that we can meet whatever the market or customer demand is. But really, when we are speaking about identifying the risk and making sure that we are doing the right things, it's crucially important to collaborate, work with developers, understand their pain points, and then address them.
Yep, absolutely. Brian, would love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, and try to add something to that. I think one thing we try to do is you're providing trade-offs for teams. So if a product manager or engineering team comes in and wants to just talk about a new feature or a new design, don't be the department of no. We provide trade-offs to say, yes, we could do that if we put these mitigations in place or we take care of these risks, but not being the team that just says, no, we can't do that because the risk is too high or because that's privacy and we're not allowed. So really being creative, rolling up the sleeves with the engineering teams and the product managers and others when they designing something, when they sit down to do something, and taking that secure by design approach and saying, okay, how do we achieve the end goal here? And again, always explaining why. So if it's sometimes we do have to do compliance for compliance sake, but explain that and be transparent about it. So people know that, security isn't just trying to hide something or pull the wool over our eyes and say something is a security risk when it's really not, and it's just to meet a compliance objective. It's a compliance objective, and that's the reason you're doing it. Be plain, be frank, and say, this is why we're doing it. We don't agree with it from a security standpoint, but it has to be done because it's going to allow our customers to adopt this solution, and making sure that that's part of your culture as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Outside of the compliance piece, how, that I'm sure that must be a driver within the organization. How else can you get devs and the engineering organizations bought in to security? Like, what are some of the ways that you're kind of building those strong relationships together?
Yeah, I think if it's important to a customer, then it's an easier sell to your engineering leadership, to
Yeah.
your InfoSec leadership, and to the executive level. So really tying something back to customer value. Why are we doing this? And what is the benefit to the end customer, or what is the problem that the end customer is having with our product that we need to solve here? And using that as your leverage, and using that as your justification,
Yeah.
and really looking at through that lens.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Using kind of the customer and the overall business value as the North Star for that relationship. That's great. Nikola, did you want to add something as well?
Sure, well, I completely agree with everything stated there. Like, customers are a huge help when it comes to presenting that value. But sometimes we see that lacking, right? So what if customers are not pushing hard enough on some of the security requirements or similar? So I think our role should be to be able to present where we are today. So what we think it's missing from our security culture, process, or behaviors that we want to see in an organization, and why that might be a problem further down the road. So that can help us actually map like a tailored framework per each larger team group, or because I look at the cultures as a the even in big companies, there can be different subcultures in different areas, in different teams, in different products that they are building, and market that they are targeting. So there, I think it's very important to see what are those behaviors that you as a product security lead would like to see, and then to get a buy-in on a multiple levels, also to see what would be the outcome of it. So I always look to have like a lagging and leading indicators,
Mhm.
so we can progressively report on the improvements of the security culture, because that's where we can start measuring things from contributions and things like improvement in our overall posture. So that's where I would kind of add things, because sometimes it's missing that push from either regulatory side or from the customer perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the metrics conversation is interesting too, kind of related to what I was going to ask next. How do you guys think organizations can better recognize security contributions and build a stronger security culture overall? I mean, oftentimes it's not, you don't hear about, product security or application security until maybe an incident or a breach happens, right? But that's not the moment we want to wait for, right? So how do we kind of elevate the the exposure, I guess, across the org? Would love to hear your thoughts there, Brian, if you want to take that one.
Yeah. So I think you touched on security objectives in the last one, and I think those can also help drive recognizing contributions as well. I think showing what we're trying to accomplish in a measurable way, and what so that we know what good looks like, so that we know what done looks like, and teams can rally around that, and know when they've met the goal, and then really celebrate that. So if somebody has achieved something ahead of schedule or on time, according to what the objective we set, really celebrating that throughout the organization, throughout the culture, internally as well as externally, with maybe a blog post about an interesting project or an interesting solution we just came up with to develop a solution to a specific security challenge. We can blog about that and put it on the put it out there in the public, and really celebrate and allow the engineers that did that work really to get uh, public acknowledgement and public recognition for that, as well. Some other, tactics internally, of course, trying to build a security champions programs where, advocates can come and, in an open forum, just discuss challenges and interact with the team, raise new issues and concerns, having public Slack channels, having public forums where anyone throughout the organization can come in with a topic and ask for some help or bring something new that maybe we haven't heard of or thought about yet is always helpful as well. So yeah, those are just a couple of tactics that we found successful.
Awesome. Nikola, I think, I want to kind of talk about transparency here a little bit. Um, let's talk about increasing the transparency of product security in the industry. I know you've got a point of view on this here. Why is increased transparency needed from your point of view?
Well, I think we can compare that maybe to the open source and closed source issues. Like in a sense, there is typically a higher level of trust in open source because people can download source code, can analyze it. There is community built around it. So I think at the end of the day, the trust is bought with transparency. And transparency is capability of those who are, let's say, not afraid to share what they have built in. And sometimes, unfortunately, we cannot just go and open source parts of our source code so we can make customers believe in the security of the product because of the intellectual property and other type of the considerations. But what we can do actually is to, through a collaboration with customers, increase the level of transparency in our security programs, in our measurable KPIs. And we have been exploring like the Google Salsa framework, which can provide a common language between the vendors and the customers and between the vendors among themselves. So it is a way to provide additional transparency into the build process and how the product has been built, what were the outcomes of the build, and there is the concept of software attestations where you can provide how your build went and all your security checks, automated security checks that you have had in place, how they turned out to be for a particular build. So that's, I think, one step forward in just kind of relying on certifications, because we all know that certifications are audits in time and they demonstrate that the process is there. But essentially, there is like a lot of ways to have an exception in the process, kind of risk acceptance, non-compliance exceptions, and so on, which all kind of contribute to the overall risk of the product. But you can still have your product and your processes certified. So I think the next step there in the ecosystem would be to have like more transparency in what's really going on in the product being delivered to the customers.
Fantastic. No, thanks, Nicholas. I want to say that, so we covered transparency, covered security culture, customer focus. One other question for you both here is, how do you think product security is evolving? What's in store for us here in the future, and what advice do you have for organizations here in the next few years? Would love to hear, Brian, if you'd love to kick us off.
Sure. Yeah. And how it's evolving, I think there's a lot of ways we can go in that. I think when we talk about, customer first, being customer obsessed, driving more towards open transparency and looking at, all of the maybe the third-party components that we're using in our software as an example, really being very transparent about that. How do we allow customers to test the products themselves, try it out for themselves, really prove that we are secure by design and secure by default. And so working directly with customers to give them more direct visibility into, the software itself, as well as how is it running in the environment. If the cloud service, do they have the transparency and the visibility into the workloads and the underlying infrastructure that it's running on, giving them full and complete transparent access to alerts, logs, anything that's happening in that environment that their security team might need to do their role and protect their data as well in that shared ecosystem, and bringing it to the customer proactively. So if we see something happening in the environment, bringing it directly to them. Maybe we see a customer running our product in their own environment, but it happens to have a public endpoint open, and we notice, hey, that's our software that's exposed, reaching out to them and directly notifying them. And so really partnering with customers on the security journey, really helping them be proactive about what's running in their environment. If there is a known vulnerability or a known issue, being very transparent and publishing CVEs, publishing security advisories, making sure you're registered as a CNA for your product, and publishing CVEs so that customers are getting notified, as well as maybe having direct channels to notify them as well before something gets published. And so as things evolve, the attackers are evolving their game. One last point I think I wanted to touch on was more that adversarial simulation and the adversarial modeling. So as we know, you might apply a SALSA framework. How do you take that SALSA framework and look at that as, this is my known threat surface, and now how do I do an adversarial attack on that CI/CD environment? What would an attacker want to do in getting into my pipeline, and how might they accomplish that, and using those frameworks to then conduct some real world adversarial attack simulations, based on that knowledge and what you learned, and then, sharing that right back out to the customers and to the public, on your blog, on your website, and being transparent about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Fantastic. Nikola, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
So I think really this time the threat landscape is rapidly evolving. I know we say that in cybersecurity all the time in the last couple of years, but with the advent of AI and the concept of 10x software engineer, where they're expected now to have 10x productivity, it's just really, I think, the time to redefine the term of reasonable security, which kind of, in my mind, directly translates to concepts of defense in depth, and where is the right amount of applied security controls within your product, right? So I think that we are going to enter into an era like we discussed today of transparency, measuring behavior and measurable improvements in product security, rather than to rely on compliance and having certified processes and products, because there is that fine difference, like how much did you really go to invest and to protect from the threats that you still don't know anything about, and are you really doing that defense in depth on every step of the product process, right? So I think that we are looking at that shift where we are getting to be measured by behaviors and be transparent about it, and to have more conversations with customers, between the customers and vendors. And if I needed to kind of summarize it in one sentence, I think we really, all of us need to start, if not already, to start looking at security as a business enabler, rather than something that is there like to slow down the process or progress. So with that, we would need a strong help from regulations and customers as well, to kind of enable those conversations and make sure that we are going in the way of transparency, because that's going to bring also more clout to product security teams to continue doing all that great work across the companies, I'm sure.
Amazing. Thanks, Nikola. Well, Nikola and Brian, thank you so much for such a fantastic discussion with all these amazing insights. It's pretty clear that building strong product security isn't just about the tools and the technology, but also about fostering the right mindset, being open about our practices, and really understanding the crucial role of, our customers ultimately, right? So thank you to everyone who tuned into this session. And I'm now going to hand it over to Karina, who's going to introduce our next session.